Well, hello, folks. This is Rob Trump here with a little karaoke show for you. Not broadcasting on Facebook anymore because they don't seem to either like to let me publish anything or even now record anything with it up the way it is. So, well, we're going to try it this way and share it over at Facebook later. Anyway, today's kind of another chill day. It's a little bit on the hot side in Colorado. So I thought we'd kind of do something a little mellow like some Gordon Lightfoot. Here we go. Picking up the pieces of my sweet shattered dream. I wonder how the old folks are tonight. Her name was Anne, and I'll be damned if I recall her face. She left me not knowing what to do. Every highway let me slip away on you. Every highway, you've seen better days, the morning after blues, from my head down to my shoes. Every highway, let me slip away on you. Turning back the pages to the times I've lived before, I wonder if she'll ever do the same. Now the thing that I call living is just being satisfied, knowing I've got no one. Every highway, got to see you, my old friend. Every highway, you've seen better days, the morning after blues, from my head down to my shoes. Every highway, let me slip away on you. Searching through the fragments of my dream-shattered sleep, I wonder if the years are close to mine. I guess it must be wanderlust or trying to be free from the good old faithful feeling we once knew. Every highway, let me slip away on you. Every highway, you've seen better days, the morning after my head down to my shoes. Every highway, let me slip away on you. Slip away on you. Every highway, got to see you, my old friend. Every highway, you've seen better days, the morning after blues, from my head down to my shoes. Every highway, let me slip away on you. Well, as those of you who followed my show know, I kind of tend to do a little sermon in between songs sometimes. I'm not sure what we're going to be sermonizing on this time, but I've been thinking a lot about the nature of souls, so we might go into that a little bit after this next song. There's a house on a hill by a worn-down, weathered old mill in the valley below where the river winds. There's no such thing as bad times, and a soft southern flame Oh, Cotton Jenny's her name. She wakes me up when the sun goes down, and the wheels of love go round, wheels of love go round. Love go round, love go round. It's a joyful sound. I ain't got a penny for Cotton Jenny to spend, but then the wheels go round. When the new day begins, I go down to the cotton gin, and I make my time worthwhile to them. And I climb back up again, and she waits by the door. Oh, Cotton Jenny, I'm sore, and she rubs my feet while the sun goes down, and the wheels of love go round, wheels of love go round. Love go round, love go round. A joyful sound. I ain't got a penny for Cotton Jenny to spend, but then the wheels go round. In the hot, sickly South, well, they say, well, shut my mouth. I can never be free from the cotton grind, but I know I got what's mine. She's a soft southern flame. Oh, Cotton Jenny's her name. She wakes me up when the sun goes down, and the wheels of love go round, wheels of love go round. Love go round, love go round. A joyful sound. I ain't got a penny for Cotton Jenny to spend, but then the wheels go round. Wheels go round, round, round. Wheels go round, round, round. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we wanted to talk a little bit about souls. You'll have to bear with me because you're going to have to take a lot of things on faith. One of the things you can take on faith is that souls do exist. In fact, once they start existing, they keep existing pretty much forever, unless God decides to push the old reset button, in which case God could actually decide to start all over and begin a new creation. Kind of a last-ditch measure, I know, but it's sort of the supreme veto. So with those two things taken for granted, the other things you need to understand that souls are reincarnated, sometimes pretty frequently. Most human souls come back pretty regularly. The other thing you need to know about souls is they don't just exist in humans. They don't just exist in sentient beings. There's a soul for everything in the universe. In fact, us humans are actually a sort of an oversoul. We're made up of a bunch of subordinate souls, some of which are actually oversouls of themselves. The heart, the lungs, the kidneys, the brain, they are in themselves oversouls who are the masters of a bunch of, I wouldn't say lesser souls, but smaller souls with a different purpose. And that hierarchy goes all the way down to the most elementary of particles, and it goes all the way up to the universe and galaxies and stars and all the things, big things that we think are, rather mundanely going through their physical gyrations, which, the astrophysicists like to explore. Just like the quantum mechanics like to explore the small side of things, looking at the lives of small souls. So in fact, we'll go on with another song, then we'll talk about what souls do. Through the woodland, through the valley, comes a horseman wild and free, tilting at the windmills passing. Who can the brave young horseman be? He is wild, but he is mellow. He is strong, but he is weak. He is cruel, but he is gentle. He is wise, but he is meek. Reaching for his saddlebag, he takes a battered book into his hand. Standing like a prophet bold, he shouts across the ocean to the shore, till he can shout no more. I have come on moor and mountain like the hawk upon the wing. I was once a shining knight who was the guardian of a king. I have searched the whole world over, looking for a place to sleep. I have seen the strong survive, and I have seen the lean grow weak. See the children of the earth who wake to find the table bare. See the gentry in the country riding off to take the air. Reaching for his saddlebag, he takes the rusty sword into his hand. Then striking up a knightly pose, he shouts across the ocean to the shore, till he can shout no more. See the jailer with his key who locks away all trace of sin. See the judge upon the bench who tries the case as best he can. See the wise and wicked ones who feed upon life's sacred fire. See the soldier with his gun who must be dead to be admired. See the man who tips the needle, see the man who buys and sells, see the man who puts the collar on the ones who dare not tell. See the drunkard in the tavern stemming gold to make ends meet. See the youth in ghetto black condemned to life upon the street. Reaching for his saddlebag, he takes a tarnished cross into his hand. Then standing like a preacher now, he shouts across the ocean to the shore. Then in a blaze of tangled hooves, he gallops off across the dusty plain, in vain to search again where no one will hear. Through the woodland, through the valley, comes a horseman wild and free, tilting at the windmills passing. Who can the brave young horseman be? He is wild, but he is mellow. He is strong, but he is weak. He is cruel, but he is gentle. He is wise, but he is meek. Okay, so let's go back to a little sermonizing. We're talking about what souls do. Let's start at the small end of the spectrum, the quantum mechanical area of the souliverse, which might not be too familiar with anybody who hasn't studied science, but I think everybody has a basic idea that quantum mechanics is where the laws of normal reality kind of broke down, and we discovered that actually these little tiny things don't actually do what we expect them to do until we observe them. And then it seems that when we start looking at them, they make decisions about whether to be in this state or that state, and have a certain nature or not a nature. It's like they're making a choice. And that's, in fact, what they are doing. These little souls don't get a lot of choices, but they get to observe the universe from their very localized and small point of view and decide how they feel about it, and take up a state, take up an action when other souls come into contact with them, which is sort of like the act of observing, right? And at that time, they have to decide how they're going to react to whatever is impinging on their little universe. Similarly, at the high end of the scale, souls have to decide when they're ready to go supernova or when they're ready to turn into a black hole. Sometimes they don't get those choices. Those are, kind of choices that may be available if you have enough mass or if you've, kind of played the game right to be in the right state to do that. So in a way, those big souls are a little bit like that. But they have a deeper life there in that those decisions are somewhat variable. Suns can decide to some extent when they're going to spout out a solar flare, and maybe it's a big one that can take out a whole civilization at some time. And that's their right as the oversoul of the solar system that they belong in, and that's happened in our solar system before. Similarly, other stars may decide, this one little galaxy may decide, there's this one little sun in our galaxy that's creating a lot of trouble, and we don't think they're going to get their shit together. So they'll, send out, I don't know, an asteroid or very, very large cosmic burst that will just disrupt that other solar system's planet that has these pesky little humans on it and wipe them out, or wipe most of them out and give us a chance to start over again and not make so many mistakes, not displease the universe so much. So when we take it down to the human level, the human has a choice how to react to both the stimuli of souls that we are, in a way, the master of, the things that are inside our body or what we take into our body, and how we react to the outside universe. So, how we react communally to souls outside of ourselves. And each time we make one of those decisions, it is part of our creation of our path through the occupation of a vessel that the soul is occupying, whether it's a body, whether it's a heart, whether it's a planet or whatever. And that is kind of how souls live their lives. Trees have souls. Animals have souls. Each kind of soul, each soul has different types of decisions and a different experience of consciousness, depending on what vessel it is. It's like very much like a video game where you can choose to be a different character class, and those character classes have powers and things they can and can't do. Okay, so while you mull that over, I'm going to go to another song. In the early morning rain, with a dollar in my hand, with an aching in my heart, and my pockets full of sand. I'm a long way from home, and I miss my loved ones so. In the early morning rain, with no place to go, out on runway number 9, big 707 set to go. But I'm stuck here in the grass, where the cold winter wind blows. Now the liquor tasted good, and the women all were fast. Well, there she goes, my friend. Well, she's rolling down at last. The mighty engines roar, see the silver bird on high. She's away and westward bound, far above the clouds she'll fly, where the morning rain don't fall and the sun always shines. She'll be flying on my head in about 3 hours' time. This old airport's got me down, It's no earthly good to me, 'cause I'm stuck here on the ground, as cold and drunk as I can be. You can't jump a jet plane like you can a freight train, so I'd best be on my way in the early morning rain. You can't jump a jet plane like you can a freight train, so I'd best be on my way in the early morning rain. Now let's hone in a little bit on the kind of decisions that our physical form here as humans have been having to make lately. First off, let's talk about the basic decisions about what to eat, what to drink, how to think about things, how to react to things. Those are all decisions that are, in a great extent, a kind of a group decision of the whole body as a vehicle. So some decisions are, driven more by what the brain thinks. Some decisions are driven more by what the heart thinks. Some are driven more by what the lungs think, or the stomach, or anything else. And each of them has their own personality. And they don't always agree. That's why we are often at odds about what we're going to eat, what we're going to do, who we're going to see, who we're going to love, who we're going to hate, all sorts of things like that. Okay, well, you mull that over. I'm going to sing another song, and then we'll start talking about some of the more difficult decisions our bodies face. That's what you get for loving me. That's what you get for loving me. Everything you had is gone, as you can see. That's what you get for loving me. I ain't the kind to hang around with any new love that I've found. Since moving is my stock in trade, I'm moving on. I won't think of you when I'm gone. So don't you shed a tear for me, because I ain't the love you thought I'd be. I got 100 more like you, so don't be blue. I'll have 1,000 before I'm through. That's what you get for loving me. That's what you get for loving me. Everything you had is gone, as you can see. That's what you get for loving me. It's so nice to meet an old friend and pass the time of day and talk about the hometown a million miles away. Is the ice still in the river? Are the old folks still the same? And by the way, did she mention my name? Did she mention my name just in passing? And when the morning came, do you remember if she dropped a name or two? Is the home team still on fire? Do they still win all the games? And by the way, did she mention my name? Did she mention my name just in passing? And when the talk ran high, did the look in her eyes seem far away? Won't you say hello from someone? There'll be no need to explain. And by the way, did she mention my name? Nice. Okay, well, actually, I think I might step back from talking about decisions and talk a little bit about how souls get born. Where do souls come from? One might ask. Well, actually, the quantum mechanics guys and physicists who are looking at the physics of the small have a pretty good idea of that. Souls are born when particles flip into existence from nothing, which they can from time to time, and under certain circumstances in a certain sort of field, it becomes more likely that particles will become created. A lot of particles have antiparticles, and certain events, they say, yeah, of course they do. And, the particles quickly find, antiparticles quickly find some way to cancel out, so they don't exist anymore. And the other ones sometimes exist for a while. So, you can have an antiproton and a proton, and the antiproton goes spinning off and maybe goes find some other antiproton to cancel out and, make cosmic love with and disappear into the sunset. Or sometimes these particles will just wink in and out very quickly just on their own and have a very short lifetime of their own. Those decisions actually bring up the kind of decision that we learn to make regarding compassion, because one of the core mysteries of physics has been, why do we live in a universe that has, or at least seems to have, only one kind of matter and not antimatter, when you think that they would be both equally likely? Well, it's true. There are other universes that have mostly antimatter, and there are universes that are in violent conflict between the two. And the basic difference is a decision of compassion. If the first particle in the universe was born and had an antiparticle, want to cancel out with my mate and go into non-existence again? Do I want to let my mate continue to exist, and I will cancel myself out to give them a better chance of surviving? One or the other could decide that. Or do we want to try to separate fast enough that we can both exist for some period of time and go gallivanting out into the universe to see what we can see? And those are the very simple kinds of decisions that these elementary particles make. And they learn a lot from making those decisions. The ones that go out into the universe get to learn more things, because they will eventually encounter other kinds of particles that are not necessarily they're like their original birth mate, and they will learn a lot of more interesting things from those other particles than they might have learned if they just lived a very short existence. As they get more experience interacting with things, they might eventually run into particles that they make up an atom with. A proton might go find, an electron and maybe a few neutrons or whatever, and, or at least one or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the mainstream form of hydrogen is, but they might create the first hydrogen atom or the first helium atom that they belong to. And in doing so, they become part of a slightly larger, and the atom is kind of the master of those little guys and has a lot of say over what they do and how far they can play from home and what sort of tricks they can do with other atoms. And so as these atoms glom together and eventually run around meeting other things, they might coalesce into molecules of different atoms. And those molecules might coalesce into a virus or even a primordial bacterium. And those viruses and bacterium could eventually find their way into a human body and become subject to some extent to this oversoul that is our human body. And that's kind of how the little souls get to be bigger souls. Let's go on to another song now, and we'll talk a little bit more about that and its implications for this very interesting time we're going through right now. Rainy day people always seem to know when it's time to call. Rainy day people don't talk, they just listen till they've heard it all. Rainy day lovers don't lie when they tell you they've been down like you. Rainy day people don't mind if you're crying a tear or two. If you get lonely, all you really need is that rainy day love. Rainy day people all know there's no sorrow they can't rise above. Rainy day lovers don't love any others, that would not be kind. Rainy day people all know how it hangs on your peace of mind. Rainy day lovers don't lie when they tell you they've been down there too. Rainy day people don't mind if you're crying a tear or two. Rainy day people always seem to know when you're feeling blue. High-stepping strutters who land in the gutter sometimes need one too. Take it or leave it or try to believe it, you've been down too long. Rainy day lovers don't hide love inside, they just pass it on. Dress in a room where you do what you don't confess. Sundown, you better take care if I find you've been creeping round my back stairs. Sundown, you better take care if I find you've been creeping round my back stairs. She's been looking like a queen in a sailor's dream, and she don't always say what she really means. Sometimes I think it's a shame when I get feeling better when I'm feeling no pain. Sometimes I think it's a shame when I get feeling better when I'm feeling no pain. I picture every move that a man could make. Getting lost in the loving is your first mistake. Sundown, you better take care if I find you've been creeping round my back stairs. Sometimes I think it's a sin when I feel I'm winning when I'm losing again. Willingly or unwillingly, food, drink, words, music, movies, viruses, vaccines. Yes, indeed, even the things that we manufacture through our technology and we insert into our bodies, those are souls. They may be created through the interference of humanity, and that's perfectly okay. That's what we're designed to do. We're designed as souls to learn how to create. We may not be very good at it at this point of the development of the human species, but some souls occupy vessels that are very, very good at creation and destruction, or a destruction of a sort, transmutation, let's call it. Because as we know, in the physical universe, they get all the COVID-19 going on, and a great debate over viruses and vaccines, and the world is a very fused place because of it. And a lot of people look at the situation we've got going now and they see it as, oh my God, we're heading for the apocalypse, or we're going to engineer our own doom to save us from destruction. And so we've got people on all sides talking and totally out of hand. I'm not even going to consider that point of view. Or we can absorb a little of it, or we can absorb a lot of it and decide what to do with it. And these are decisions that we're making on a day-by-day basis right now. Okay. I think I'm going to cut to a song. I just realized that I duplicated one of them, so I'm going to take that one out. Upon the bitter green she walked, the hills above the town echoed to her footsteps as soft as eider down, waiting for her master to kiss away her tears, waiting through the years. Bitter green they called her, walking in the sun, loving everyone that she met. Bitter green they called her, waiting in the sun, waiting for someone to take her hand. He was a sailor who died away at sea. Some say he was a prisoner who never was set free. Lost upon the ocean, he died there in the mist, dreaming of her kiss. Bitter green they called her, walking in the sun, loving everyone that she met. Bitter green they called her, waiting in the sun, waiting for someone to take her home. But now the bitter green is gone, the hills have turned to rust. There comes a weary stranger, his tears fall in the dust, kneeling by the churchyard in the autumn mist, dreaming of a kiss. Bitter green they called her, walking in the sun, loving everyone that she met. Bitter green they called her, waiting in the sun, waiting for someone to take her hand. Bitter green they called her, walking in the sun, loving everyone that she met. Bitter green they called her, waiting in the sun, waiting for someone to take her hand. Nice. Take a little drink here and we'll talk a little bit more about this situation. So basically what we've got going on, and it's been something that's been building for quite some time, is that humanity's been sent a lot of messages over time. A lot of these little souls, viruses and diseases and ideas. Yes, ideas are souls too. And one of the most influential souls that has affected the mindset of certainly America and most of the world is the idea of the Christ, the Messiah. And that's an idea that has infected our species for quite some time, well before the advent of Christianity. It's been a recurring theme of almost every religion we've ever had has had sort of a messianic thought of a new age being born as the result of the advent of some special being. And the main difference that Christianity and some of the other attempts, that certainly wasn't the first attempt. I think the first that we know of in recorded history was the Pharaoh Akhenaten, who decided that he wanted to usher in a new religion that was focused on the worship of a single deity, messianic deity, and representation of the physical representation of the trio of Isis, Osiris, and their son Horus, which was one of the many trinities that has existed in religion, all religions from way back when, the idea of the Trinity, the Holy Trinity, and various incarnations of that, some family-ish and some more of a spiritual nature. That's where the Father, Son, Holy Ghost Trinity comes from. Anyway, so these ideas have had a profound effect on us, and not always what we would perceive as being something good. They create a lot of hardship, a lot of tension between people that espouse different ideas. And so religion has gotten to believe in one, or as the work of something incredibly evil for those who don't believe in a religion and find themselves marginalized by cultures where religion is sort of mandated, in the Muslim world, in the Christian world too, at least on a localized scale. You know, there's a lot of places in this country where if you don't espouse a certain religion, if you're not Mormon, if you're not at least Christian, you know, you certainly are a marginalized piece of your society. Okay, while we're thinking about that idea, let's do another song. There was a time in this fair land when the railroad did not run, when the wild, majestic mountains stood alone against the sun. Long before the white man and long before the wheel, when the green, dark forest was too silent to be real. But time has no beginnings and history has no bounds. As to this verdant country it came from all around. They sailed upon her waterways and they walked the forest tall, built the mines, the mills, and the factories for the good of us all. And when the young man's fancy was turning to the spring, the railroad men grew restless for to hear the hammers ring. Their minds were overflowing with the visions of their day, and many a fortune lost and won, and many a debt to pay. Oh, they looked in the future, and what did they see? They saw an iron road running from sea to sea, bringing the goods to a young growing land, all up through the seaports and into the hand. Look away, said they, across this mighty land, from the eastern shore to the western strand. Bring in the workers and bring up the rails. We gotta lay down the tracks and tear up the trails. Open her heart, let the lifeblood flow. Gotta get on our way, cause we're moving too slow. Bring in the workers and bring up the rails. We're gonna lay down the tracks and tear up the trails. Open her heart, let the lifeblood flow. Gotta get on our way, cause we're moving too slow. Get on our way, 'cause we're moving too slow. Behind the blue Rockies, the sun is declining. The stars, they come stealing at the close of the day. Across the wide prairie, our loved ones lie sleeping. Beyond the dark oceans, in a place far away. We are the navvies who work upon the railway, swinging our hammers in the bright blazing sun. Living on stew and drinking bad whiskey, ending our backs till the long days are done. We are the navvies who work upon the railway, swinging our hammers in the bright blazing sun, laying down track and building the bridges, ending our backs till the railroad is done. So over the mountains and over the plains, into the Muskogee, into the rain, up the St. Lawrence all the way to Gaspé, swinging our hammers and drawing our pay, laying them in and tying them down, away to the bunkhouse and into the town. $1 a day and a place for my head, a drink to live in and a toast to the dead. Oh, the song of the future has been sung. All the battles have been won. O'er the mountaintops we stand. All the world at our command. We have opened up the soil with our teardrops and our toil. There was a time in this fair land when the railroad did not run, when the wild, majestic mountains stood alone against the sun. Long before the white man and long before the wheel, when the green dark forest was too silent to be real, when the green dark forest was too silent to be real. And many are the dead men, too silent to be real. Okay, we had a comment from the audience. There's no clear Trinity idea in the Bible. It's just dogma. This is true. The Trinity idea actually comes elsewhere, and the Bible did its best to try to stamp it out, because the Trinity, was really a feature of pre-existing religions that, the early fathers of the church, they wanted to get all the believers of other religions, so they created some fantasy things that sort of tied Christianity with these previous religions. So, the trinities of pre-existing conditions were many, and the most familiar ones were, of course, the Isis, Osiris, Horus Trinity. There were many other Trinity-like things. It's an archetype. Basically, it's a geometric archetype, as are most of the magic numbers. They have geometric significance because they inform us of fundamental knowledge about the structure of the multiverse. The Trinity is an important one because it represents the first departure from a linear, one-dimensional world. If you have a third point, which is not in line with two others, you create a triangle, which is a trinity. It's the most simple trinity, you think mathematically, that you could have. And so the number three is a very important one to understanding, the way of things, the how of things. These origins is being intuitively realized by many people who follow no religion but just are very spiritual. All sense that there is something geometrically and important about this, and that's why even somebody who has no religion, who is very spiritual, will be very interested in studying ancient history, especially the cosmology of the Sumerians and what bits of that filtered down through other religious writings and were eventually captured in portions of the Bible, albeit with severe editing. So that's a good question. Anyway, back to what's going on right now. So we've got all these messages coming in in the form of viruses and vaccines and ideologies and narratives, conspiracy theories, and those are creating a lot of tension in our bodies. And basically, when bodies become very tense, they start reacting to that tension. They stop breathing as well. They stop thinking as well. They develop all sorts of health-related problems and something that it doesn't know how to deal with. And the collective pressures of these things can cause us to die. They can cause us to be, given that the soul is eternal and these vessels are temporary, the universe really doesn't care if the vessel dies. It says, well, okay, you had your chance. We gave you so long, and you decided to react to all these pressures, and you killed yourself, or you at least assisted your suicide through the lifestyle you led, the thoughts you allowed to dominate your existence, the sort of strain and stress that you allowed yourself to feel. And that's not a bad thing. That's what souls are here for. That's why we occupy these physical vessels that we carry around for a lifetime. And, if you understand that you're always going to get another chance, and, the neat thing is when you do get another chance, let's talk about what happens after you die. Okay. When you die, and this is something that's borne out by research into near-death experiences and reincarnation, you go to this place that some people think of as heaven. And to some extent, it is kind of a heaven. But I like to think of it more as a universe. So it's like a big dating site in the spiritual world. We go up there and we get to meet all the souls we've ever had any doings with again, if we want to. I mean, we can try to avoid each other there too. I mean, we have personalities and we don't lose them. The soul has a personality and it grows, and that's what makes every soul unique. And, even the first soul, which is the entity that we call God or the source, or, whatever term you want to give to the, because, if God wanted to have everything his way, he would have just made it his way, right? If you think of God as being omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, okay, what earthly use would God have for all of these whining, mewling little human beings down here, right? But that's not God. That's not the first soul. The first soul is much smarter than that. Now, you think of the God of Christians or Muslims or most any other religious, persuasion where you think, God is some big, powerful entity that's going to solve all your problems if you just believe hard enough and you pray hard enough. Anybody that thinks that way knows that it sometimes comes true a little bit, but for the most part, except for a few very lucky individuals, it doesn't really work that way. You don't get your prayers answered. You don't get what you want for Christmas. And you become disillusioned sometimes in that, and you start making up alternate narratives about, well, why didn't I get my Christmas gift? It must be because there's some bad thing out there that's stopping God from helping me. And you create things like devils and Satan and Lucifer as an excuse for things not working out that way. But the real problem is your fundamental assumption about all that omniscience, omnipresence, and stuff, because it doesn't work that way. The first soul was a consciousness, another soul, just like any other soul. And if that entity has more power than others, it's because they have a lot more experience, because they dreamed up all of this stuff. They dreamed up the game we're playing before it even started playing. And one of the things that it was wanting to do in dreaming up that dream was fulfilling the wish of every soul, which is to have other souls to play with, to commune with, that weren't exactly like you. Would it be fun to go through life playing games with somebody that was playing the exact same game as you, had the same cards? It would be silly. It would be ludicrous to live existence like that. So the real God created this physical universe as a way to train other souls to attain the ability, the level of refinement to compete and to commune with God in a way that is interesting for God. I mean, it's not much fun for God to play for even us. I mean, think of us. Would you, if you're not, you have a very limited, this whole system to basically train souls to be gods and to take part actively in the maintenance, creation and maintenance of the universe. And being a very efficiency-minded entity, it or he, I mean, we like to think of God as he. Some of us, or many ladies now are adamant about going back to the old mother goddess worship and treating God as a female entity. When the first soul came into existence, there was no such thing as sex. Sex was a fairly late invention, and it was a very good invention for accelerating the whole process, although it added a few new quirks and stuff that we're seeing causing problems in our society, and we can talk about that another day. But kind of wrapping this up and getting to a place where we can get some more songs, because I feel like singing a little bit more. Let's just go back to the thought that this virus that we've got going, no matter how it was created, where it came from, it was meant to happen. Because we're in a very special time right now. We're in a very special time where we are converging upon, let me explain something about how time works and the dimensions. The dimension that we occupy, this physical universe that we observe around us, is only one of many. And what we observe as time unfolding is an illusion. We see time in a one-way direction because we are occupying human vessels. In other forms of consciousness, in other vessels that we could incarnate in even, we can observe time as it really is, which is a continuum. And if you think of time going from some beginning point to some end point, and that being kind of a string, one of the most interesting things you can do to a string is to put your finger down in the middle of it for existence. And every time this new midpoint gets set, it sort of creates a set of conditions that, you know what, this is a good starting point for the next game that we're going to play with the multiverse. And that becomes the focus of future games. Why would you want to create this one, so far the perfect point, midpoint that you found, when, you could keep starting from that point and then just work toward extending the boundaries in both directions? And that's really what the goal of God is in all this, is to create the quickest expanding universe that effectively has virtually no beginning and no end. The alpha and the omega become infinite, and only the midpoint ever changes. And as you find a new midpoint that everybody likes, you say, okay, we all agree this is the best starting point for the next game going forward. And that midpoint is a very special inflection point. It's a point at which the universe, the multiverse, undergoes an evolution, a cosmic evolution, where everything is allowed to change very quickly. Um, and new species will crop up, old species will die. Uh, Species like humanity could diverge into 3 or 4 different subspecies. Maybe one that is tailor made for exploring space, one that is tailor made for making better use of the planet we live on. Those would be my two likeliest choices for what's going to happen to our species as we come through this period. Um, so anyway, what's going on now is a very special event. It's very traumatic for people who haven't bought into the idea of the soul and the soul's immortality, because if you think you're only going to get one chance through this, it could well be that what we're going to go through in the next few years could look very much like the end of the world. But it's not. It's just a transformation. It could well be that, when we get through whatever's coming ahead of us, there may be a fraction of humanity left. Maybe some of the rich and famous, have contacts off world, will find ways to establish colonies elsewhere. It could well be, there's people thinking that alien entities are all around us, gradually sucking up people to take us to populate other worlds, or to breed with other species from other planets and so forth. And all of that is probably true. And it's nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing to be, to get all worked up about. It's just part of the way things go. Because if the goal is to train souls to become gods, what you would want to do is to constantly create better training programs. And you can think of these physical forms that we occupy, whether we're the soul of a star, or we're the soul of a human being, or we're the soul of some being from Antares. Those are just vehicles for training. And, as you figure out ways to make the universe better, you make better vehicles. Put extra training wheels on them, on the handle or something like that, and make it a little bit better bike, a little bit better sailboat for driving through life as a soul. And that's all we're going through. So, it's going to be painful. It's going to be hard, but it's not really something that, because during this special time, you've got an incredible opportunity to advance as a soul, because a lot of the rules that had been in place before are sort of crumbling as we get closer to the singularity. And there will be unity. In fact, as we get closer to the singularity. And there will be unity. In fact, almost a certainty that in going through this last life as a human being, because you might be human again, but you're going to get a decision when you go back to heaven. That's what happens. I like to call these helpers up there spiritual yentas. And, they're nice. They can be very helpful, but they can also be a pain in the ass, because they think they know more than you about what your soul's path is. And we see a lot of that in the religious and spiritual crowd down here. People thinking that they know what's good for us, what we should eat, how we should organize our lifestyle, what we should do, what we should think. And, that can be helpful. It can be a real pain in the neck, and it can really impede your progress as a human being and cause you a lot of grief. Anyway, I'm going to go dig up a few more songs. If you want to ask any more questions, feel free to post them, and we'll talk a little bit more through a few more songs. I'm going to have to put this mic down, though, for a second. back on board here. We're going to shift gears over to Jim Croce land. Speaking of messages going back and forth between souls, this is a good message song. Operator, how could you help me place this call? See, the number on the matchbook is old and faded. She's living in LA with my best old ex-friend Ray. Gosh, she said she knew well and sometimes hated. Isn't that the way they say it goes? But let's forget all that and give me the number if you can find it, so I can call just to tell them I'm fine and to show I've overcome the blow. I've learned to take it well. I only wish my words could just convince myself that it just wasn't real, but that's not the way it feels. Operator, or could you help me place this call? 'Cause I can't read the number that you just gave me. There's something in my eyes, you know it happens every time. I think about the love that I thought would save me. Isn't that the way they say it goes? But let's forget all that and give me the number if you can find it, so I can call just to tell them I'm fine and to show I've overcome the blow. I've learned to take it well. I only wish my words could just convince myself that it just wasn't real, but that's not the way it feels. No, 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 that's not the way it feels. Operator, oh, let's forget about this call. There's no one there I really wanted to talk to. Thank you for your time. Oh, you've been so much more than kind. You can keep the dime. Isn't that the way they say it goes? But let's forget all that and give me the number if you can find it, so I can call just to tell them I'm fine and to show I've overcome the blow. I've learned to take it well. I only wish my words could just convince myself that it just wasn't real, but that's not the way it feels. So where did we stop at? In terms of what does this mean for you and how are you going to get through this whole thing better or worse? That's really a fairly individual thing. I think there's some people that are in such a rough spot with all this that, you know, they probably are contemplating ending their life and just don't want to deal with it anymore. And, you know, that's a perfectly valid choice for a soul. It's one that's not easy to come to because, you know, we chose this life. When we go up, when we choose a life, we choose what we're going to be born into, the kind of shape of life we're going to have. Obviously, we can't exactly choose everything that's going to happen because there are a lot of other souls in play here. But, you know, to the extent we can, we pick a life, we pick a vessel, and we go sailing on the sea of life. And, sometimes we achieve what we set out to do, and other times we just let it pass by. And, I've met a lot of people who opportunities they had for doing, who knows what Adolf Hitler's dreams were as a child. You have valid choice. There's no, and look for opportunities to grow, because, like I said, there's going to be no better opportunity to solve things than right now as we approach the singularity. And you'll be surprised if you start looking for synchronicity. So, my advice would be to become more observant, to become more open-minded about what we do with our life, to be more daring about what we do. In particular, and it was at first, but it stimulated me to do something that had been in my mind that I kind of been resonating towards and getting messages that I needed to do, and try ayahuasca, which is a sacred plant medicine of the Amazon. And that ayahuasca experience materialized amazingly right after I had this very negative experience. I felt this urge after watching some things on YouTube to go experience this. And lo and behold, when I went to look at how I could experience this, it turned out that there was an ayahuasca ceremonies openings come up. It had been sold out. And I went to this ayahuasca ceremony. It was a 2-night ceremony. And I had a major, major epiphany that set me on my spiritual path that I'm on now. Up to that point, I had a really strange life. I'll have to do a show just about my life. But basically, it opened up this whole new range of things, range of possibilities for me. Later on, as I processed this new information about who I was and what my potentials were, I had the opportunity to encounter a practitioner of QHHT, which is a hypnotic technique designed for exploring past lives. And that further cemented my being as somebody that needed to be talking to you now and doing this strange karaoke sermon that you're witnessing. This is the first time I've done this on YouTube, by the way. And I did it on Facebook, and I guess, basically similar message today. And I guess it was so controversial that the Facebook bots decided to actually take down the whole thing. My other shows, although somewhat controversial and a little bit raunchy at times, were only muted for certain songs that violated copyrights. But that one was after it had broadcast and I started trying to share it. It was absolutely taken down, made invisible, disappeared. So if you're getting this on YouTube, you're probably getting something that at least somebody thinks you don't want to hear. And if somebody is trying to stop you from hearing something, it's probably something you want to listen to. At any rate, if you like what you're hearing, subscribe. Look for me on Facebook, Rob Tromp. I've got a page where I post all of my works, and encourage people to also participate as a way of sort of protesting internet censorship and the absurdity of copyright protections in the modern world. So that's another thing I'm quite passionate about. There's something we've got to lose through all this is the censorship of thought, the censorship of free speech, and the control of ideas, when ultimately every idea is based on another idea, which is based on another idea, which is based on an idea or inspiration that came from God. And I don't fault anybody wanting to make some money, wanting to make a living, but the thought that what you're doing is worth 1 billion times as much as what somebody else is doing is just patently absurd. It's a range of selfishness and vanity that just can't be tolerated in this world anymore, and won't be tolerated. I mean, either the world's going to collapse, or we're going to find a better way of dealing with the issues that have hit us in this technological age. Because the old idea of I mean, when we just had books, patents, the copyrights on books last about 100 years. And, for the book age, that was reasonable. That gave you and a couple of generations of descendants, the ability to profit from and survive off of the works of your ancestor. In a modern age, that just doesn't cut it. I mean, if your work can't make enough to sustain you and put away enough for a nest egg for your family in one lifetime, I think you've done a bad job of managing your assets. Similarly with technology, it's moving so quickly. There's no reason that patents on technology should last more than maybe about 5 years before they become public domain. If you can't make a killing in 5 years, and maybe have a reduced royalty or fair use policy after 5 years for maybe another 10, but the way things are, it's just stifling creativity in our species, and that's what our species exists for. That's why humanity, from our point in the past, what we were engineered for was to basically be a creative species. The benefit of spiritual powers for the powers of God. So we have to invent them. And that's the reason why we doubt by some. We're selfish, we're greedy, pig-headed, all of the things, all of us. And that's okay, because we're serving a greater plan in the only way that it could be. Well, I know it's kind of late. I hope I didn't wake you. Hope I did, actually. What I've got to say can't wait. I knew you'd understand. You innocent things to say. I knew you'd understand. Like the singing bird and the croaking toad, I've got a name. I've got a name. And I carry it with me like my daddy did. But I'm living the dream that he can't give. Moving me down the highway, rolling me down the highway, moving ahead so life won't pass me by. Like the north wind whistling down the sky, I've got a song, I've got a song. Like the whippoorwill and the babies cry, I've got a song, I've got a song. And I carry it with me and I sing it loud. Hey, moving ahead so life won't pass. And I'm gonna go there free. Like a fool I am, and I'll always be. I've got a dream. I've got a dream. They can change their minds, but they can't change me. I've got a dream. I've got a dream. I know I could share it if you want me to. If you're going my way, I'll go with you. Moving me down the highway, rolling me down the highway, moving ahead so life won't pass me by. moving me down the highway, rolling me down, pass me by. Of course, sometimes we have to talk about bad things, and this is one of the baddest songs. Well, the south side of Chicago is the baddest part of town. And if you go down there, you better just beware of a man named Leroy Brown. Now Leroy wanted trouble. You see, he stand about 6'4". All the downtown ladies call him T-top lover. All the men just call him sir. And he's bad, bad Leroy Brown. Baddest man in the whole damn town. Badder than old King Kong. And meaner than a junkyard dog. Now Leroy, he a and they like his fancy clothes. And they like to wave his diamond rings in front of everybody's nose. He got a custom Continental. He got an Eldorado too. He got a 32 gun in his pocket for fun. He got a razor in his shoe. And he's bad, bad Leroy Brown. Baddest man in the whole damn town. Badder than old King Kong. And meaner than a junkyard dog. Well, Friday, about a week ago, Leroy was shooting dice. And at the edge of the bar sat a girl named Doris, and ooh, that girl looked nice. Well, he cast his eyes upon her, and the trouble soon began. And Leroy Brown, he learned a lesson about messing with the wife of a jealous man. And he's bad, bad Leroy Brown, baddest man in the whole damn town. Badder than no King Kong. Meaner than a junkyard dog. Where the two men took to fighting, and when they pulled them from the floor, Leroy looked like a jigsaw puzzle with a couple of pieces gone. And he's bad, bad Leroy Brown, baddest man in the whole damn town. Badder than no King Kong, meaner than a junkyard dog. And he's bad, bad Leroy Brown, baddest man in the whole damn town. Badder than no King Kong, meaner than a junkyard dog. Yeah, he was badder than old King Kong, meaner than a junkyard dog. Thank you. Grab another drink. Oh, this is a nice one. We'll talk about time all by itself one of these days. If I could save time in a bottle, the first thing that I'd like to do is to save every day till eternity passes away, just to spend them with you. If I could make days last forever, if words could make wishes come true, I'd save every day like a treasure, and then again I would spend them with you. But there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find. I've looked around enough to know you're the one I want to go through time with. If I had a box just for wishes and dreams that had never come true, the box would be empty except for the memory of how they were answered by you. But there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find them. I've looked around enough to know you're the one I want to go through time with. Thank you. Thank you. I want to go through time with everybody, I think. I haven't met anybody that, well, a few people that bored me so much I wouldn't want to spend too much time with them. But most people I meet are pretty interesting. This is for all my folks back in the New York area. But things were spinning round me, and all my thoughts were cloudy, and I had begun to doubt all the things that were me. And in so many places, you know I've run so many races and looked into the empty faces of the people of the night. Something is just not right, 'cause I know that I gotta get out of here. I'm so alone. Don't you know that I gotta get out of here, 'cause New York's not my home. Though all the streets are crowded, there's something strange about it. I lived there about a year and I never once felt at home. I thought I'd make the big time. I learned a lot of lessons awful quick, and now I'm telling you that they were not the nice kind. And it's been so long since I have felt fine. That's the reason that I gotta get out of here. I'm so alone. Don't you know that I gotta get out of here, 'cause New York's not my home. I actually kind of miss New York. Yeah. That's just too mellow a mood to end on. I've got to put on something a little bit more upbeat. So we're going to do one with the Cars. Let's see. Where's a better version of that one? Bear with me. I wish they could decide whether to put the in front or in back. It would make life a lot easier in karaoke land. Okay, this is one from